Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweetpea, Season 1, Episode 3. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, Rhiannon, which I think, obviously she's not a criminal mastermind, going back to the scene of the crime of your second victim, not the best idea, but I guess she wanted to see if anyone discovered it, and I guess when she left, she was kind of like, okay, no one's found the body. I think it was like a cat licking at it. She's like, no, it's yours now. I'm like, not the best idea. I mean, you got away with it. No one saw you at the crime scene. You going back. I guess, like I said, she was just probably trying to see if anyone found the body. I don't remember. Like I said, I think there was someone who found the first body, who found Ryan's body in episode 2, but I don't remember like a passerby or a jogger or whatever. But this, we never actually found out who found Mike's body, her second victim. They never specify that. We just know that the body was found. I mean, once again, I don't know if it's like a dump or whatever, and just, I mean, his body is like, you could just stumble across it if that's, because that seems to be like a junkyard or whatever, so like maybe someone came to throw away their trash and found the body despite where she put it. Once again, it was still visible enough where she was standing. She didn't have to like maneuver crazily to be able to see the body. It wasn't buried underneath some stuff. So she just kind of left. It wasn't out in the open, but it kind of basically was. So either way, she was kind of riding the high of that. I think that's when she came into work with pastries and like coffee or whatever for people. And she's feeling good, passing out stuff, but the problem is she saw the report on Jeff, his article, and her name is nowhere to be found. It's like on page 38. She gets labeled as like essentially an assistant at the Gazette, but it's like she brought the story to him, but it's like you didn't write it, so. But I still think like wouldn't. Like, you get some credit in it, but also, like, Jeff is kind of a dick and it's not. Once again, she's not the actual reporter, so, but it is kind of messed up that she doesn't actually get any proper credit, even though she's the one that does the investigating and all that stuff, so it sucks. But it also works to her benefit because Ryan's mom comes in there and chastises both her and AJ because it's like, right, you said you're going to write good stuff about my son and you made him out to be a villain. Now people are like, that's all people are going to remember. And that is the sad thing of, yeah, like if you did some shitty stuff and then you died, sadly, that's all. Who knows who you could have been? Maybe you could have done stuff to repair that image, but once you're gone, you're gone. The last image of you is how anyone's ever going to remember you. So that is always a thing of you want to always be on your best behavior, so be a better person. Like even if you've done shitty stuff in your past, to a degree, some shitty stuff, it's like, nah, that's forever following you, no matter how much you try to like redeem your image. But if it's on the milder side of like, okay, you were an asshole once or did something shady or shitty, like if you can redeem yourself when you die, I'm like, hopefully people be like, yo, let's focus on a more positive side of your life rather than negative. But you die an asshole, you're forever going to be labeled an asshole. I get the sentiment of, right, you never want to view your child or have your child viewed a certain way, especially because now people are taking out on you. It's like people suck, so it's like, because I'm sure some arguments could be, well, your son was an asshole because you didn't do a good enough job as a parent, yada, yada, yada. But also, she didn't have much defense when Rhiannon was like, yo, your son was a bully, so he kind of got what he deserved. And other people in office were like, Jesus, Rhiannon. It's like, once again, she's coming from her perspective of, like, she's tired of people who bully to be able to get away with it. Like, you get to create this narrative about you being a good person. I mean, the opening to this episode was also, like, her stalking Julia and seeing how great Julia's life is. And for her, it's like, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. The bully's life is supposed to peak at high school and not get better. And it seems like it's all better. Granted, and it's something I brought up, I think, in episode 1. I don't think Julia's life is as great as she presents it to be. Julia does seem like the type of person that presents a persona of how great she is, but her life is kind of shit. This episode makes me feel like I think they're winking and nodding to some of the cracks in it. I'll get to that later, but I don't think Julia's life is as great as she makes it out to be. I mean, it's easy from the outside perspective because that's the image she's presenting. You're not in her everyday life knowing like whether or not it really is as glorious and golden as she makes it out to be. So we'll get to that later. But once again, she's feeling all that venom, and that's why she's like, right, when you've done something bad, you deserve to be punished for it. And it's like, Ryan deserved it. And it's like, I don't know whether it's just his mom didn't have anything to say because she's like, she knew kind of how much of a bastard and troublemaker her son is. Once again, that might be why Dad was quiet last episode, because he could be conflicted about it, and the mom wanted to spin the narrative of how good her son was, but like, she walked away. We'll see if there's anything more that comes about it, but it definitely gave the office a pause on being like, yo, Rhiannon, calm down. Like, why are you saying something terrible like that? That woman's son didn't just die, he was brutally murdered, so... She was initially setting up to have, like, she bought all the supplies that she needed, and the cashier, who she always has an issue with, she was like, oh, like, you know, I was asking for a bag, you were too busy talking to Vaughn. It's like, wait, you know Vaughn? It's like, no, I just know because you were on the phone with her. And she's like, weirdo. I'm like, how am I the weirdo? Yeah, I'm hearing your conversation. It's not like I'm even trying. The fact that you're talking immensely loud and you're not doing your job. Once again, talking in between customers, sure. But it's like giving me guff, as in like Rhiannon. It's like giving her guff because you brought, like, you're talking loud. And she was saying it jokingly, but obviously Rhiannon's like the awkward person that she is. But, yeah. Kind of being, like, super petty and tossing her phone inside of her drink. I'm like, yeah, that was kind of nice. The lady was kind of an asshole. So, once again, you're not killing her, but you are being extremely petty. But yeah, she had her little Dexter room put together trying to get prepared to kill Julia. Her climbing into the freezer and it almost closing. I was like, Jesus Christ, that kind of gives me a panic attack just thinking about it. But I'm also like, it feels like that might be foreshadowing something. I'm like, I was like, because like, I've never been inside of a freezer, but I'm assuming like it seals from the inside, so you could only open it, because I think it seals tightly from the outside. So like, you need the, like, you can only open it from the outside. That's because I think that is how that works. Either way, I was like, ugh. It's like you want to put something there, like keep your hand on the side so you don't. But, you know, once again, she luckily didn't get stuck. But I'm like, feels like that's going to come back into play in some shape or form. I don't know. I don't know whether that's on the Julia front or what, but who knows? Once again, it just goes into show, like, once again, Rhiannon's kind of flying by the seat of her pants. So she's got it planned out, but she's not a well-organized killer. Like, once again, she's kind of just spur of the moment. Like I said, last episode was, you just happened to follow the guy to an isolated enough area and you struck. You didn't plan anything out. Your first murder, understandable, was spur of the moment. This one was still kind of spur of the moment. This is the most thought out you've had with anything so far, but even then, it's still kind of like, once again, it's like, the prior crime scenes were out in public, so you're more likely to get caught. This is your home, which I'm sure could lead to you getting caught. Granted, Saren's interested in selling your home or your dad's house, so it's like, that could be an issue, because it's like, there could always be trace evidence found, and I guess if you do a good enough job covering up, I don't know, it just, how about we just don't murder people, but, in the confines of the show, it's just kind of like, I don't know, you're leaving yourself open to get caught in so many ways, because she is an amateur with this. I even love when they found the second victim. AJ was like, oh yeah, whoever this is, the killer's most likely a loner and stuff like that. And you see like Rhiannon almost like, Jesus, why are you so judgy, AJ? But it's like, oh, whoever it is a loner, and they're probably going to get caught because they're not thinking this through. Because she had brought that up like maybe last episode, but like Rhiannon had brought up AJ had brought up like almost like the killer's going to get caught. But Rhiannon's like, yeah, 60%, like 62% of murders like go unsolved, and people get away with it, I think is what she was saying. So some like high percentage like that, or it might have been on the opposite end, if only 60% of the murders get solved, but I think she was saying like 62% of murderers get away with it, or like never get caught type of thing. Either way, another element to this episode is the whole her and Craig situation. That is always the saddest element of, you like someone who doesn't quite feel the same way about you, and you're kind of oblivious to it, and then there's someone who likes you, but you're kind of oblivious to that. Like, it's kind of hinted at that AJ likes her, especially in this episode. Just the way he reacts to her and talks to her, but I think it's also her lack of self-confidence. I also get that, where you're like, I've told this story before where like I've had someone point out, it's like, that girl talking to you like you. I'm like, what? No, she doesn't. When I was younger, because like I have such low self-esteem, I find it hard to believe that any like woman would like me. So I think it's Rhiannon's kind of in that boat where like she's oblivious. Although she also had some slight contempt for AJ because he kind of stole the job that was never really hers, but she was gunning for. So there's that, but also it's just like she does like spending time with him and does like him, but not in that way because she's more into Craig, which Craig's not into her. I mean, it was like a one night stand. You were like, hey, trying to talk to him, and he didn't give you the time of day until last episode. But that's also because he wants something from you. He's trying to buy your family business, so there's layers to it. So it's like, I mean, he does seem like he does enjoy being around you, but it's sad that it takes that much effort for him to notice you. Like, he only started finally noticing you last episode, but now it's like, now you're giving me attention. She set up the whole, like, you know, them eating at a Chinese food restaurant, and the server was a little judgy, being like, she's just like, oh, I'm gonna wait for someone. He's like, yeah, but we don't need this table by 8:30. I was like, come on, dude. Then, like, don't offer this table if you're going to need it in a time crunch. And once again, I don't know the restaurant business, but I thought, like, hey, that's a little rude. And she's like, fine, I will have 2 mini banquets. And he was looking at her. I was like, extra judgy. She's like, sure, coming up. I was like, come on. But luckily, Craig showed up. And he wanted to talk about the agreement, but she spun it off into, like, a casual conversation. And it seemed like they had fun. And then they went back to, I think that was his place, and they banged it out. You're like... And I think it's kind of a thing to keep in mind when Rhiannon was telling him, is like, look at me. And it's just like, yeah, because I want to see how much you like being well inside of me, I think is how you can interpret that, of like, no, look at me. Like, that way it's not just like random sex. It's like there's a little more intimacy to it. You know, it's love making, not just fucking. You know, I think that's kind of what that's supposed to be. And she's kind of getting off of knowing, like, right, you're looking at me, you're feeling it, you're feeling good. Yeah, and I'm feeling it now, too, because I'm feeling the connection. So that works to her benefit. But then she gets called in by the police, and they have questions about where she was, what she was up to. And she's able to give a good enough alibi of, like, oh, yeah, I was, like, severely drunk. And then she had to bring up, like, well, there were witnesses. There were the people she was at the club with. She did say friends. So I'm like, she never gave them Julia's contact information. They were able to she was able to skirt around that. But Julia will probably be able to contest to, like, well, that's kind of a moot point by the end of the episode. But the rest of the friends could, if they're able to get in contact with, contest. So, like, oh, yeah. But it might sour things on Rhiannon's front, because it's like, hey, oh, we saw her, but she was acting crazy around Julia. She was acting hysterical. She was drunk, hysterical. Like, all that could get used against her. Granted, she did say, like, hey, I did get a little drunk. My dad died and my dog died. And I love the other detective being like, oh my God. And he shows a picture of his dog. And so he's like, he's my world. He's my entire world. So I get it. Marina is the other cop, and she seems to be the one that is more, like, locked in, but, like, her partner's, like, the goofball person. So he's, like, taking all the bait that Rhiannon's like, oh my God, there were some, like, laddie lads that showed up. They're looking for a fight and stuff, so they could have possibly done something. He was gobbling up, like, oh my God, yep, that's a good enough group to kind of keep an eye out for and potentially ask around about. But it turns out he gets the attention because he is, like, I guess the senior officer. And then Marina kind of gets the short end of the straw, and she remembers Rhiannon from, like, performing Roar by Katy Perry last episode. But then, like, Rhiannon connects with her where it's like, right, does that happen often with your boss? It's like kind of being seen through or ignored. And she's like, yes. And Rhiannon's like, I'm in the same boat. I think that's going to be the twisted thing of Rhiannon and her will probably connect because they have a lot in common. So it's that thing of, you know, the cat and mouse of it all. She's trying to catch you who committed the crime because you're both the same. But it's the thing of, I'm on the side of justice. You're a person that kind of broke bad and went crazy and killed, like, 2 people at this point in time, planning to kill a 3rd. But I think it's going to be interesting if the show decides to go down this route where those 2 actually become friends, just because it could be Rhiannon's way to keep an eye on the crime. We'll see if they go down that route or not. It might not be the thing, but it might be something where Marina, like, ends up connecting with Rhiannon. Like, maybe they don't become friends, but maybe they become friendlier towards each other because of that. Or maybe Rhiannon's able to use that information that they're so similar to her benefit. We'll have to wait to see. But she canceled on Julia, which I thought was interesting. And this is where I was kind of saying, like, little things where it seemed like poking holes in the fact is that Julia does not have the greatest life, is that she was like, yeah, I'm fine with not meeting up for tomorrow. Something came up for me too. I was like, interesting. And there was also the situation with like her, what was it? She was trying to like link up with Craig again, and it didn't pan out because he was busy. And the moment that came up, I'm like, are those two banging it out? And she decides to show up, got liquor in hand. I'm like, you're gonna find Craig smashing Julia, aren't you? But they were just talking. But I get the feeling like I think Julia and Craig were having an affair. I mean, to be fair, like at her father's like that little gathering after the memorial at the bar, he was chatting her up, seeming like he was more interested in Julia than Rhiannon. That on top of like them just, I mean, well, we find out Julia's buying Rhiannon's house because, well, I don't know if Siren suggested it. She was just like, oh, I'm going to put up an offer. But I don't know if she was doing that just to be spiteful, because I think she doesn't think of Rhiannon, and I don't think she thinks about what she did to Rhiannon in the past, but she does remember enough just to be spiteful towards her, at the end of episode 1. But once again, getting more of that, while all the torture and pain Rhiannon went through, it's like, why were you like that? Once again, a bully, usually you're like that because stuff in your life isn't great, so you feel like lashing out against one. I went through that whole point in episode 1, so we'll see, like, what other reason could there be for Julia being as mean as she is. But Rhiannon took her phone, like I said, when she was meeting with Craig, and took her phone. And if you look, there's quite a few missed calls and messages from her husband, or fiance rather. So I'm like, okay, she's definitely having an affair. Like, you're ignoring him because you two aren't in a good spot. Once again, presenting like, oh my God, we're happy life, happy wife or fiance, but it's all BS, I believe. And I think, especially later on when Rhiannon's like, oh, sorry, the place is kind of a mess because, I was having sex with Craig, actually. And there's this look on her face almost like, I guess taken back because, wow, you're just brutally saying that. But I also had that look like, oh, like something happened with them previously. Like, it is interesting that it was that, like, it's like, oh, tomorrow night, I can't. I don't know. It could have just been a legitimate business thing of Craig is going to do stuff for the house to help with Julia flipping it, but I just feel like there's definitely more to it. But we'll see. We'll see whether there's validity to my perspective on that or not. But yeah. Once again, like, Craig doesn't view her that way. Like, it's like, cool, we hooked up twice and had good time at dinner, and like I said, he doesn't like you in that way. It's the feelings don't go both ways, and that's pretty obvious. But I think it's to Rhiannon, it's like anyone that shows her kind of that attention that she's aware of, because like I said, I think she's just got a blind spot when it comes to AJ. I think she latches on to people who treat her nicely because so many people don't. And I think it's like you kind of will settle for anything, if any love and affection, because only other people that show any love and affection towards her are both dead, that being her dad and her dog. But this whole situation sent her spiraling even more because, once again, it feels like you're trying to take Craig from me, and on top of that, you are trying to get my house so you can sell it. So there's that. Because also, once again, where am I supposed to live? But apparently my sister doesn't give a shit about what happens to me, so that's kind of her perspective on it. So given the opportunity, I thought she was going to cause some chaos. Like, I thought the like evil thing to do was try to ruin their relationship by sleeping with her fiance. That's not a guarantee, so I don't know. She probably, like, that probably would take too much time and effort probably, and just maybe Rhiannon's mind doesn't go that duplicitous, so maybe that didn't even become something that would cross her mind. But what I did think was interesting is, like, she saw her car, Julia's car, and tries to stab the tire, but it didn't work. Because things do make it seem like it's so easy to pierce through a tire, especially because you have a knife. You'd think it'd be so easy, but I guess it's like, I guess you have to hit it at the right spot and with enough force. But she eventually got it, and so I was so hopeful that I was kind of worried that it's going to be a thing of Julia was going to like, she's like, oh, Julia's going to go back to her car and her tire's going to be flat. I thought it's like, oh, she's going to get in the car with Craig and you're going to subvert that whole thing because she's going to go over to Craig's and then they're going to smash type of thing. But no, and I was like, oh, please tell me Craig is going to take off before she finds out about the flat tire. And lo and behold, that happens. Rhiannon comes over and is like, oh, I'm glad you're here. She's like, oh, do you have a key? I don't have my phone. I think I might have left my phone. And she's like, oh, no, I don't. It's like, can you call Craig? It's like, oh, well, Craig doesn't always answer. I can take you. She's like, well, could you get me an Uber? It's like, oh, yeah, sure. So, but it's like, Rhiannon tried like, or I could take you. Or she even says like, oh, can I call your fiance? And she immediately was like, no. So like I said, they're not in a good space. They're definitely on the rocks. But you know, Rhiannon was able to convince because like, all right, fine. I just don't want you to be in danger because it's like, bro, there have been 2 recent murders. So Julia accepts it and is in the vehicle with her. And Rhiannon trying to have small talk. So what type of music do you like? And she's like, oh, that's a weird question. What? Asking what type of music you like is weird? Shut up. That's the most normal, basic question you could ask. And, you know, I mean, but it's also in her repertoire because what was the first thing she asked Craig on their date? So it's like, I guess the weird aspect of it is you asked it out of random. It's like, hey, we're sitting here in complete silence. I want to know what type of music you like so I can turn on the radio, you know? But yeah, dropped by her house and she jumped on that opportunity. Like I was like, so that whole setup. I mean, she didn't initially plan this, but she already had it set up. Her little Dexter like get up, like set up to take Julia out was already set up. So it's like, yeah, she just took the opportunity of let me flatten your tire and offer you a drive home. I was like, oh, I've got these black spots in the garage. You got to go see them. And yeah, brought her to the garage and was like, hey, yo, you got to pay. You have to apologize for what you've done. You're trying to ruin my life like you did before. She's like, what did I do? And it's like, you know what you did. But it's like, is Julia being oblivious? Like I said, episode 1's ending made it seem like she knows what happened between her and Rhiannon. But now she's sitting here being oblivious because, once again, maybe she legitimately doesn't realize how much harm she did. Because in her mind, it's like, I was an asshole, sure, but that was just me as a kid. We were both kids. Once again, there had to be something more to why she chose Rhiannon, because Rhiannon was just an easy target and it made her more accepted because she had her own dysfunction at home. And like I said, she was just lashing out at Rhiannon. Same thing as now. Like I said, she could just easily be trying to, perception-wise, overcompensate for life not being that great. But yeah, Rhiannon kind of screwed the pooch on this. It didn't go down the way she was hoping it would. Dropped the knife. What benefited her was leaving all that frozen food out and the floor was wet and Julia slipped on it. I was like, there's no way they're just going to make it so she slips and busts her head open and dies that way. No, she's still alive and well. And so you have Rhiannon picking up the frozen meat and knocking her out. It's like frozen meat for the win. So very, very sloppy. I like it more when things are sloppy and it doesn't even go according to plan because it is a nice personification of Rhiannon's approach to this whole murder situation. So murdering people off of her kill list. So I threw it out there last episode how I think this is all going to play out. Obviously, we still got half the series left to figure out how that's all going to play out, what the end result's going to be. But I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us with all of this, especially because like, well, Julia's going to go missing, her fiance's going to be looking for her. I was scared with the whole phone situation that like while they were together, I was like, I don't know if you turn off her phone or not, which would have been a smart thing to do because like what if her phone rings and she has a very specific ringtone? Like that would have been a big oops, but that didn't happen. Still could happen in the future if you manage to keep her phone on you, but I'm like, you probably want to turn it off, but there's also like, is there GPS on her phone that someone can track to be like, oh, she was last seen in this area? There's a lot there, so. And I brought this question up last episode too. Julia's her next target, but will there be anyone in the interim like a Jeff? Because she has all the reason to hate Jeff. I mean, she did kind of pour all that, milk of magnesia in his coffee and just gave him extreme bubble guts. So that was her, like, payback against him. But I don't know if she's going to actually kill Jeff, because killing someone from work might draw too much attention. So we'll see if, like I said, if there will be a future target or whether it's all on Julia now. You already got 2 bodies out there that the cops have gotten attention to. You're currently have someone kidnapped, so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, I'm like I said, excited to see where all this takes us going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.